everybody. We now call the Committee on Environment, Climate, and Legacy to order. Let the record show that it is 3:07 on March 5th, 2026. And we have four things on our agenda today, where we'll be opening with a couple of bills, two small LCCR bills and one major LCCR bill. And then after that, we'll hear information about lead on ammunition and hunting and fishing. So the two bills that we're going to hear here could be standalone, but there's an option for our committee to make amendment to the larger LCCR bill, our annual LCCR bill. And so the second half, again, will be informational hearing and discussion on the prohibition of lead in hunting ammunition and fishing tackles. The committee now has quorum. So let's begin with Senator McEwen. Since you're here already, let's start with your bill. And you already have testifier at the table with you as well. So Senator McEwen, into your bill, Senate File 3999.
Thank you very much, Chair. Senate File 399 would repeal a provision requiring a recipient of money from the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, or the ENRTF, to get written approval from the Department of Natural Resources prior to acquiring an interest in real property with money from the fund, as well as notify the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources. The repeal is being recommended by the LCCMR as it is considered to be obsolete. Previously, some LCCMR acquisitions raised concerns over the appropriateness of receiving LCCMR funding, so the extra approvals served as guardrails. However, the DNR now utilizes a strategic land management plan to review all proposed land acquisitions and provide vetting before they're submitted to the LCCMR as a project. And here with me today are representatives from the DNR and LCCMR to be able to answer any questions or explain any further for members. Thank you.
Okay, let's start with Mr. Bob Meyer. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you for allowing me to be here today. For the record, Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner, Department of Natural Resources. And Senator McEwen, thank you for the excellent description of the language in front of us. We did discuss this within the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources back in December, and they voted 16-1 to approve this language moving forward. As Senator McEwen stated, this language was first drafted in 2010, amended in 2013, and I was actually working with retired Representative Gene Wagenius on this language at the time. And acquisition was we were in a different era for land acquisition. The Lessard-Samms Council wasn't there. A lot of acquisition was going through LCCMR, and there were some blanket appropriations, some programmatic appropriations for land acquisition that at the end, there were several acquisition or proposed projects that the DNR was not interested in, which spurred this approval process. Since then, as the author has stated, we have our strategic land asset management program that we use, communicate that strongly and annually with our partners. And everybody is aware, and we're working to create a cohesive quilt work. It's going to be a patchwork because of private land ownership, public land ownership, and other land ownership patterns. But we all are very well aware of what is within the best interests of the states. So rather than having this administrative burden still present, which is just an artifact of that era, we are in a completely different time frame where the LCCMR does discuss acquisitions for each project, and we review with our partners what their intentions are, and we all are on the same page. So with that, we do support this language.
Thank you, Mr. Bob Meyer. I just want a record to show that we have two members on remote as well, Senator Lane and Senator Hawj. So quorum was already noted earlier. So Director Nash, do you have testimony as well, or are you good?
Mr. Chair and members, I think the two testifiers already provided a great overview. I'm here to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, any question from members? Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I don't know that I have questions. I was reading through this, and I do have some concerns over this. I've got some issues going forward in my own district that if they play out the way I think they will, I'm going to try to do everything I can to try to either get this back off the bill if it goes on. This, along with some other bills that are coming forward, are actually opening the door for less oversight over the land purchases. Some of this in this bill, and which I think this bill applies to, but also would be a little convoluted when it comes to the acquisitions. And so, as it is right now, the commissioner, you think that it's not needed because the commissioner approves everything. But there may be a time when we have a commissioner that doesn't approve everything, and I'd really like to have that extra set of eyes on that. So I would not support this.
Okay, any comment or question from members? This will be laid over, so we'll decide later on what our decision is, whether we want to amend it to the larger bill or not. If it's not, then we'll move it to go to finance and then to the floor. And just a forewarn that I like to keep all the LCCR contact as a whole. There are two amendments just going to come up. I'll take that, but the rest, if there's no amendment, I would reject it. I want to keep it as a whole, and will want to carry this bill forward as a whole. And once unwanted amendment, not related to LCCR, made it to the bill, my decision will be different. So, thank you, Senator McEwen. The bill is laid over, so Senator Green, you have a bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you want me to go up front, or should I just do it here?
Better picture up front if you like.
I don't take good pictures, Mr. Chair.
And you get to sit next to Director Nash, so that's a good photo op as well.
I really don't care.
Go ahead, Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to submit Senate file number 3913. During the course of the LCCMR meetings, there's been a lot of, I don't know if I'd say contentious talk, but it's always a struggle that's trying to decide what is conflict of interest, what is not. And as in some of my research, and Director Nash can correct me if I'm wrong, because of the back and forth, what the commission decided was that we would change the language back to what I believe was more in line with what used to be before it was changed in the first place. And so it's just it's a simple change to what constitutes a conflict of interest. And I will let Director Nash, if she's willing, to describe it, and we can move from there.
Director Nash.
Mr. Chair, members, Becca Nash, the director of the LCCMR, and I thank the author for providing a great summary. I think there were some changes that were made by the legislature to the LCCMR's conflict of interest statute in 2023. And as we have gone along to try to implement it, we have found that they have been complicated, have been difficult to interpret by LCCMR members, as well as nonpartisan House, Senate, and LCCMR staff. And yet they also have significant ramifications for members' ability to participate in the recommendation process. So indeed, as the author said, Senate File 3913, recommended by the LCCMR, proposes to remove the challenging text that was added in 2023 and replace it with a prohibition on commission members serving as project managers for or receiving financial or other compensation from a proposal that is being reviewed by the commission or funded with trust fund dollars.
Okay, any question from members? Senator Drakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Ms. Nash, will there be any members of the LCCMR that vote under this new proposal, that take a vote on a proposal in which they have a direct financial interest?
Director Nash.
Mr. Chair, Senator Drazkowski, no, they would not. It has always been the case that if a member has a conflict of interest that is declared immediately upon their discovering of the conflict of interest, They're required to declare that at the beginning of every single LCCMR meeting, and they are required to refrain from participating, from voting, or discussing that proposal. So they would not be voting on a proposal with which they have a conflict of interest.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Senator?
Thank you. So, Ms. Nash, thank you for that. I mean, as I look at the new language on 1.21 and the stricken language on 1.17, and I try to compare them, what are the circumstances that are being erased from this conflict of interest with this proposal?
Director Nash.
Mr. Chair and Senator Drazkowski, and thank you for that question, and let me just qualify my last statement. Proposals are individual proposals, so when they are voted on individually, as you would say, maybe like individual bills that are being voted on, a member would refrain from voting on that. But those projects get bundled up into a recommendations package, similar to maybe an omnibus bill. Members would vote on that, even if they have a conflict of interest on one of, for example, the 104 projects that are included in the bill. But at that point, it's considered to be diluted enough, so to speak, that the member has voted. So the language that was added in 2023 would have prohibited that, and it also would have changed the threshold of affirmative votes that would be required to pass a recommendations bill according to the number of people with that kind of conflict of interest.
Follow-up, Senator?
I think that's good. Thank you, Ms. Nash.
Okay, since no question to or comment to this bill will be laid over. And next is my bill, Senate 53857. I'll make my way to the table and pass the gavel to Senator McEwen.
And members, I'll just start by noting that we have several handouts from the LCCMR that they're in your members' packets, and they are also posted online as well. And we also have a letter of support from the ENRTF Coalition. Senator Hur, to your bill.
Thank you, Chair McEwen. Before you is Senate File 3857, the LCCMR portion of the Environmental and Natural Resource Trust Fund. LCCMR, as you know, stands for Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources. This is a constitutional amendment that received overwhelmingly support from 77% of Minnesota voters to renew in 2024. The purpose of the, in short, Environmental Trust Fund is to protect, conserve, preserve, and enhance the state air, water, land, fish, wildlife, and other natural resources. This year's bill, Senate File 3857, includes over $100 million in funding for 109 environmental and natural resource projects across our states. The projects were vetted during the interim by 17 members of LCCMR, composed of senators, House of Representatives, and citizens. In your packet, you will see a list of commission members. Senator Green is the co-chair of the committee, Senate co-chair of the committee, and also member of this committee, along with Senator McEwen, who also a member of LCCMR. Two other senators that's not in this committee that are in the LCCR committee is Senator Putnam and Senator Westrom. Next, I want to call LCCR Director Becca Nash and also Deputy Director Mike Campana to give an overview of the content of the bill and take any question that you may have. So give the mic to them.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Great. Madam Chair and members, again, Becca Nash, the Director of the LCCMR, and I'm happy to be here today with my colleague, Assistant Director Mike Campana, to testify on Senate File 3857 that contains LCCMR's annual recommendations for spending from the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund. I know many of you are familiar with our work already, so we'll just give a brief overview of the LCCMR, the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, the recommendations that are before you today, as well as the process that LCCMR underwent to develop those recommendations. So first off, the LCCMR is a 17-member commission. It's made up of 5 House members, 5 Senate members, and 7 citizens, 5 of whom who are appointed by the governor, and 1 each by the House and the Senate. Similar to how your committee is supported by nonpartisan staff, LCCMR is likewise supported by its own nonpartisan staff, including Mike Campana and me. We additionally serve the entire legislature, House and Senate, majority and minority caucuses. The LCCMR's responsibility is to make funding recommendations to the legislature for special environmental projects, primarily from the constitutionally dedicated Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund. Importantly, the LCCMR is also responsible for conducting oversight of approved projects once funded. The Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund is a permanent fund in the state treasury that's constitutionally dedicated to support efforts that protect, conserve, preserve, and enhance Minnesota's air, water, land, fish, wildlife, and other natural resources. Money in the trust fund comes from 40% of the annual net proceeds from the Minnesota State Lottery, investment earnings, and interest. The fund was created through a constitutional amendment in 1988 and has been voted on several times since, the most recent time in November of 2024, when Minnesota voters decided to extend that lottery dedication to the trust fund through the year 2025. The trust fund operates similar to an endowment in that 5.5% of the value of the fund is drawn down each year for LCCMR recommendation to the legislature and for appropriation by the legislature. Following that constitutional amendment in November of 2024, an additional 1.5% is also now drawn down, and that is for appropriation from the legislature directly to the Department of Natural Resources to operate a community grants program. That is done completely independently from the LCCMR, and so the work that Mike and I are going to be talking to you about today is only about the 5.5% of the value of the fund that the LCCMR is responsible for. So what is the process that the LCCMR followed to develop these recommendations? The recommendations are a result of a multi-stage competitive process that was launched early in 2025 with the release of our annual request for proposal. That RFP announced that we have $103,326,000 available for funding. This was also the first RFP following the update of our 6-year strategic plan. And so the RFP included refreshed funding categories, funding priorities, and evaluation criteria that the members use in deciding what their recommendations will be. In response to that RFP, we received a record 400 applications requesting approximately $359 million. The requests came from local, state, federal, tribal, or agencies, as well as academic institutions, nonprofits, and for-profits. In addition to countless hours that members may have individually spent reviewing those proposals, the commission spent 32 hours together over 6 meetings to hear presentations by the applicants and undergo multiple rounds of scoring by our members. In the end, 109 proposals were recommended for funding at levels between 68% and 100% of what was requested. Following recommendations, research projects recommended for funding underwent additional external scientific peer review to ensure that they are scientifically sound and can produce the results intended. All project managers for recommended projects also developed detailed work plans, and those work plans we have posted on our website. Those are available to you for your review. The LCCMR came back in December to vote on the recommendations again, this time in bill form, and along with some recommendations for legislative extensions of prior year appropriations. And these recommendations did pass the legislature with more than the required members voting in favor. The LCCMR also voted on the 2 separate policy bills, which we took up earlier today. And so that is sort of the process that was followed. Unless you want to stop there, Madam Chair, and address any questions about what I just covered, I'd love to hand it over to my colleague Mike to talk about the contents of the bill.
Thank you very much. Why don't we go ahead and have our testifiers, and then we'll go back to Chair Her and decide if we want to take on amendments and have discussion at that time. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike Campana, Assistant Director with the LCCMR. I'm going to do a high-level walkthrough of the bill and its contents, beginning with the appropriations in the bill. So subdivisions 3 through 9 of the bill include the appropriations recommended by the LCCMR. The subdivision titles each reflect the funding categories that the LCCMR adopted with its new strategic plan. As Senator Her mentioned, overall, there are 109 appropriations for $103,288,000. So I'm going to walk through this. If you're interested in any individual project, you can follow it in the bill. Also, the table you have summarizes all those projects as well. So beginning on page 2 of the bill with subdivision 3, this contains the appropriations related to resiliency. So these are projects that would help Minnesota's environment, natural resources, and communities achieve resilience in the face of climate change, land use changes, and extreme weather events. This subdivision includes 10 appropriations for $10.641 million, and that represents about 10% of the recommended funding. Moving on to page 5, subdivision 4 contains appropriations related to water. These are projects that would help ensure Minnesota's waters are better managed for both water quantity and quality to support aquatic life, drinking water, recreation, and other uses. This subdivision includes 20 appropriations for $17.014 million, representing about 16.5% of the recommended funding. On page 12, subdivision 5 begins and contains appropriations related to education and outdoor recreation. These are projects that would contribute to all Minnesotans, especially young people, having access to and taking advantage of opportunities to connect to the lands and waters of Minnesota, including through culturally relevant and innovative approaches. This is the largest section of the bill. It contains 40 appropriations for $37.806 million, representing about 30% of the funding available. Beginning on page 26, subdivision 6 contains appropriations related to fish and wildlife. These are projects that would help ensure Minnesota has healthy and diverse aquatic and terrestrial wildlife and plants that sustain and enhance the state's environment, economy, and quality of life. This subdivision includes 19 appropriations for $18.75 million, representing about 18% of the recommended funding. Subdivision 7, beginning on page 33, contains appropriations related to energy. These are projects that would move Minnesota forward towards achieving reliance on renewable energy in all sectors, including transportation, building, industry, and agriculture. This subdivision includes 2 appropriations for $773,000, representing about 1% of the recommended funding. Beginning on page 34, subdivision 8 contains appropriations related to land. These are projects that would help ensure Minnesota's public and private lands, including forests, grasslands, wetlands, and agricultural lands, provide long-term benefits to fish, wildlife, and people. This subdivision includes 17 appropriations for $17.964 million, representing about 17% of the recommended funding. The final subdivision related to appropriations is subdivision 9, beginning on page 40. This includes 1 appropriation for $340,000. This appropriation is for fiscal management and processing reimbursements for funded projects going to non-state entities. We do this work with help from the Department of Natural Resources Grant Unit, and that's who the appropriation would be directed towards. That is the end of the appropriation sections of the bill. Moving on, subdivisions 10 through 15 on pages 40 through 48 contain funding conditions that typically get included every year and must be followed by all funded projects as applicable to that project. These conditions relate to the availability of appropriations, including the default timeframe that appropriations will be available for project work and payment conditions. the availability of data generated by funded projects, conditions related to submittal and approval of work plans, required reporting and budget amendments by the LCCMR, conditions related to background checks for projects involving children, conditions related to acknowledgement of the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund by project managers, conditions related to purchasing recycled and recyclable materials, conditions related to accessibility requirements for facilities, and finally, conditions related special requirements for projects that include land acquisition, restoration, or conservation easements. That concludes with all but one subdivision, and the last subdivision I'm going to let our Director Nash handle.
Great, Madam Chair, that is subdivision 16. It starts on page 48, and this is the legislative extensions or carry forwards that I mentioned before. These are previously funded projects that for one reason or another just need a little bit more time to complete their outcomes. No new money is being appropriated in this section. I think there's a spreadsheet in your packets as well that gives the projected amount of funds that would be extended, and this represents approximately 2% of the funds that have been appropriated in those years. So we do try to be very strict about which projects we allow to be carried forward. Oftentimes they're issues that have been beyond the project manager's control, and we assure that there's a high level of success with the project if they are extended. And I think that concludes our walkthrough, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Next, we do have a couple of testifiers. First, we have Mike Harley with the Environmental Initiative. Welcome. If you'd please introduce yourself for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Mike Harley. I'm Executive Director of Environmental Initiative, and I am happy to be here today on behalf of the many organizations and community leaders that have signed the letter that has been submitted to you as a committee today, here to support the needs that communities around our state have that we know will be met by fully funding the Environmental and Natural Resource Trust Fund Community Grant Program. I'm pleased to support Chair Herr's A1 amendment to ensure that the fiscal year 27 appropriation for the Community Grant Program advances to respond to those needs. The LCCMR package that you just heard about, that Director Nash shared with you, provides $103 million. You heard that, and 109 proposals, and you heard that the requests were $359 million, 400 proposals, so we know that the need is there. While the Community Grant Program is in the early stages of being rolled out to the public from the DNR, we know from direct conversations with communities around the state that they are ready and they are looking forward to the chance to apply for those funds. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next, we have James Trice with the Public Policy Project. Welcome, good afternoon. If you'd please introduce yourself for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. James Trice with the Public Policy Project. And so I just want to just elaborate on what Mike shared, just to emphasize that our organizations are also eager to promote the program and to make sure it lives up to the success that we know it can. We appreciate the collaboration between the leadership of this committee in the House last session in making some tweaks to ensure that the program provides the benefits statewide and in making the first appropriations to the program. We also appreciate the foresight of Chair Herr, this committee, and its counterparts in the House to agree to move the LCCMR appropriation and the community grants appropriations together this session. And so we thank you for the opportunity and privilege of your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next, I'll pass it back to you, Chair Herr, which way you'd like to proceed.
Mr. Chair, since there's two testifiers, we talk about the community grant program, I'd like to move that we adapt the A1 amendment.
Very good. Thank you, Chair Herr. Is there anything that you would like to add about the A1 amendment, Chair?
Yeah, the A1 amendment is the community grant portion of LCCMR is the 1.5% portion, and received overwhelmingly vote from 77% from our citizen of our state. And we did, last year in conference committee, we decided that we should reserve the other half for this year instead of giving DNR the full amount of 56 millions. We want to see the development of the process first. And so it looks like DNR is moving quite expeditiously and well. So it's only fair and only right to add on the other half of the funding.
Very good, thank you. Members, this is the A1 amendment being offered by Senator Herr. Yes, Senator Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Herr, I know that there was some consternation in talking with members of the House over some of this, and so we withheld the money till we saw what progress was being made, but I didn't see anything in the way from the DNR that actually says what they've done. Do you have, is that in here, in the packet somewhere?
DNR,
Sure.
2 weeks ago, we have a presentation by DNR. It's not for the bill, but it's about the program, the community grant program. And DNR is here as well. They can kind of summarize the scope that they presented 2 weeks ago. It's where they're at right now. Right now, I think they're at the point where they are recruiting advisory board for the setup that will put RFP out sometime in May, and then the standard RFP in September. If you want more elaborate information, I can certainly call Deputy Commissioner Bob Meyer.
Madam Chair,
Senator
I don't think I need to talk, to hear from Deputy Commissioner Meyer right now, because I did read the report, but there was some things in it that I didn't really care for, as usual. But so I guess we can deal with that later, but right now we could move on.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other comment on the A1 amendment specifically? All right. Senator Herr moves the adoption of the A1 amendment onto Senate file, I'll make sure I get my numbers right for the record, 3857. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
The A1 amendment is adopted. Chair Herr.
And Madam Chair McEwen, I want to see if you or Senator Green will make your own amendment, or you want to rather let it go stand alone.
Very good. Senator Green, I believe that you have the option. I'll go ahead and turn to you first. How would you like to proceed with your bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If there's no objection, I'll just offer it as an amendment, as an A2 amendment. And it is what we just talked about as far as changing the language for the conflict of interest.
Very good. So as to the A2 amendment, is there any discussion about adding that on to our Senate file? Yes, Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if I heard it right, is to add the conflict of interest stuff in here. After Ms. Nash left, I read this again. Members, as I look at this, so it really steers it from having, the current law here says, the stricken part of the amendment, Senator Green, is in which a member has a direct personal financial interest. So if a person has a direct personal financial interest in the organization, currently it's a conflict of interest. The new language says that they have to actually receive financial or other compensation from the proposal to be in a conflict of interest. So that's the difference as I read the language and compare them. So if we move to this, we're saying it's okay for somebody who has a direct the words are direct personal financial interest in an organization that's receiving funding here, it's okay for that person to vote for it. That's what this says. Maybe Mr. Stanley can correct me if I'm if I'm off course here, but I'm just trying to better understand it.
Understood. Mr. Stanley, do you have a comment, some clarification?
Mr. Chair, or sorry, Madam Chair,
Thank you.
Senator Drazkowski, if you look, and I don't know if this will assuage your concerns, but if you look at the bill and the existing language in paragraph A, you will see that there is still language, if you adopt these changes, that says that a commission member and some others may not participate in or vote on a decision of the commission, et cetera, relating to an organization in which the member, et cetera, has a direct or indirect personal financial interest. And so that language would remain in place even if you were to add this amendment to the bill. Then there are also the conflict of interest procedures that Director Nash mentioned a little bit ago. So I don't know if that addresses your concern, but I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you very much. Senator Green, did you have a comment at all, or did I turn it back to?
Just,
Okay.
you can vote how you want. And like I said, I don't want to slam anybody, but the reason that I agreed to carry this bill is simply because the way it was explained to me, that it didn't make sense to me that you would be prevented from voting for the whole bill after something had already passed as a project. But I understand your concerns, Senator Drazkowski. I think we agree on almost everything. So if you have concerns, I'm glad to keep hearing them.
Follow-up, Senator Drazkowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Senator Green, Mr. Stanley assuaged my concern. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Senator Green then would like to move that the A2 amendment,
Madam Chair.
yes, I'm sorry, I should have
Just wanna
turned to you,
have comment,
Senator.
And
Yes.
to be transparent, this is the bill that I vote no in committee. And Senator
Yes.
Green will, yes.
Yes.
Most of the time Senator Green will be the opposite, but, and so, I welcome to accept the Senator Green amendment.
Oh, very
In
good.
committee.
Okay, very good. Okay, very good. Members, all in favor of adopting the A2 amendment onto Senate File 3857, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the A2 amendment is adopted. Likewise, now I would like to move on to my bill and offer it as the A3 amendment. Let's see here. For some reason, I have too many papers. Excuse me just a sec here. Thank you. And this is the bill that we presented when we opened the hearing in regard to the DNR and the land acquisitions. Are there any, it would be my intention, Chair Her, to offer that as the A3 and add it to your bill. Is there any discussion or are there any comments or questions? Yes, Senator Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is the bill, and I'm not going to rehash everything that I said. And I did like the original version that I got that actually had the language in it instead of just the top part. But that's okay. I read it over a couple times. I think there's a danger in passing this right now. And if we could wait until another time, maybe there's no real rush for this. Everything's going to proceed as it has been. It's just that added extra layer of protection that was put in there to make sure that there's another set of eyes, that maybe one of the acquisitions doesn't quite fit right, or whatever it is, and give the commissioner a chance to view those. I don't think it's that many projects that it's really going to be that big of a deal. And so I'd rather hold off on this. So I'll be a no vote on this today. And I'd recommend that folks not support the A3 at this time.
Thank you, Senator Green. Chair Her.
Madam Chair and Senator McEwen, it depends on, how urgent you like to put it in. I do accept that as a friendly amendment. I believe it's right for this time, and if this bill move forward, we can have a discussion whether it's right for this prime time or not. we could certainly remove at a later point, and make it standalone.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chair Her. As it is technically my bill, I guess I should weigh in. I guess it is my preference to go ahead and add it at this time, but I'm also open to further discussion as we move forward if there are changes that we want to make. I'm always open to that discussion as well, so it would be also my preference to move forward with it, the adoption. So that said, I would like to, not seeing any further discussion, like to make the motion that the A3 amendment be adopted onto Senate File 3857. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say no. The motion passes. The A3 is adopted. All right. Chair Her, to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for hearing the bill. And, as we go to the course of making amendments that are relevant to LCCMR, I want to thank everyone. The Senate File 38, again, include projects throughout our state, from the urban core to greater Minnesota, and help protect and preserve and enhance Minnesota environment and natural resource for the benefit of every region in our state. Minnesota, as we know, is a national leader in the quality of life and the environment, natural resource, and outdoor recreation because of projects like those are on LCCMR. And thank you for, it's an honor to carry this bill, so ask for your support.
Thank you, Chair Her.
And did we remove the bill?
We have not. Now we have to actually move the bill as amended. Would you like to make that motion, Senator Her?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we move Senate File 3859 as amended.
3857.
3857. Help me out here, Council.
I can.
Okay.
So the motion, I believe, would be that Senate File 3857 as amended be recommended to pass and re-referred to the Committee on Finance. That is Senator Her's motion.
I concur.
So moved by Chair Her. All in favor, please. Oh, before we move to that motion, we have a comment. Senator Drazkowski, yes.
Is there room for an amendment yet, Madam Chair?
I think that time has kind of passed, but I don't know procedurally. I would have to, can we stop in the middle of our motion?
You haven't started voting, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I think if Senator Her wants to temporarily withdraw his motion and let Senator Drazkowski make his motion, he would be able to do that.
Okay, I will then defer to you, Chair Her. How would you like to proceed? You withdraw?
Sure, I'd like to hear, I withdraw my motion of Senate File 3857, and I'd like to hear what
Okay.
Senator Drazkowski.
Okay, very good. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And as I stated earlier, I'd like to, any amendment to this bill has to be under LCCR context.
Very good.
Thank
Senator
you.
Drazkowski.
Thank you. I wonder if Ms. Nash could answer some questions. Ms. Nash, how many provisions how many line items or provisions are in this bill for funding?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Nash.
Madam Chair, Senator Drazkowski, there are 109 appropriations.
Senator?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Ms. Nash. So 109, do we know, Ms. Nash, how many go to institutions of higher education?
Senator, I'd like to interrupt this. Senator, do you have an amendment?
I do.
Okay, can you go ahead and just offer us and tell us what your amendment is, and then we can go to the background of your amendment. You
Okay,
want to
Madam
make the
Chair-
case for it,
Madam Chair, I'd like to offer the A4 amendment.
the A4. And can you tell us just briefly what the amendment is before
Well-
you proceed with your questioning?
What it does, Madam Chair, is it amends the title. I've noticed that I've counted at least 35, Ms. Nash, that go to higher education. There might be even more. So I want the title of the
Thank you.
bill to read appropriately. We've got all of this money going to the university rather than to actually do projects. So the This would insert language that includes in the title, slush fund for highly paid university professors for their summer pet projects. And that's the amendment, Madam Chair. So I would,
So,
I would like to maybe discuss a little more with the committee, with Ms. Nash and others that know more about what the LCCMR is sending to us and how it's formed out and how we end up with all of these projects that go to fund higher education rather than actually get out in the field. And Madam Chair, where I come from, and my background is agriculture. And as I understand, if you're going to improve the environment, especially if you're going to help surface water quality or reduce soil erosion, which also helps improve all kinds of water quality, including groundwater quality, if you're going to do those things, you have to actually get out and move dirt in order to do it. And in these 35 projects, at least that I've counted up, I don't see any dirt getting moved. And so 35 at least, it looks like at least a third of them are to institutions of higher education for projects that are research projects that they may be doing on an ongoing basis, simply to provide them more money to do their research projects rather than to get down on the ground and help us improve the quality of the environment like is the mission of this particular area. So I'm hoping that if this is what the LCCMR wants to do, we at least title the bill properly so that it reflects what's in the bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
okay, we thank you for your explanation of the bill. We do have other business in this committee that we have a number of testifiers who have spent a lot of time and work to prepare for. So I don't want to belabor this for an amendment that would change the title in this way. But Senator, that said, Senator Green.
Well, Madam Chair, we moved kind of fast, and I think that we were going to skip questions for the LCCMR. We were going to sounded like we were heading for a vote. And so usually and traditionally we have chance to ask questions of the LCCMR. And this kind of fits in with the questions that I have, so I might as well just do them now. And I will tell you that I did break this down and differently than the LCCMR did, and that there is $22.7 million to the university. And over the years that we've been here, the university has never come to testify. They've never came here to answer any questions. And I'm just wondering, Ms. Nash, last year you said that you would get the university here. Are they here today?
Mr. Chair, members,
Ms.
yes,
Nash.
I did talk to the university about being here today, and I just want to provide a caveat that we normally tell all of our grantees, 109 of them, that they don't need to attend, and that we will let them know if there are questions that come up and bring them in accordingly. But I know that there were questions about the university last year. And Senator Green, I would also just say, as our guest is coming up, if you'd like him to come up,
Yes.
that I do have that calculation as well. University of Minnesota this year, I think, is receiving, let me see, I just had that number, 33 of the 109 projects, receiving $22.167 million, which represents about 21% of the funding in the bill. I also want to draw folks' attention to the handout in your packets that does provide a pie chart to show the distribution of funds that would be going out with this bill. And just want to draw attention to the fact that it's roughly broken up into quarters. So we've got approximately 25%, 30% going to state government, 24% going to nonprofits, 21% going to public colleges and universities, and then, roughly 25% going to local regional government, tribal government, and K through 12 education. So in terms of how that compares to previous years, it is a little bit more balanced. And looking at the 5-year trends, the University of Minnesota is receiving less than they have. The trend is lower than it has been for the last 5 years. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Senator Green, would you like the representative from University of Minnesota to come up to the dais? Okay.
Yes, I would.
Thank you. welcome. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. Andrew Chelseth with Government Relations at the University of Minnesota.
Thank you. Senator Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so I do have a few questions, and they've probably been building up for a few years, but I'll get through them pretty quickly. The amount that goes to the university, and then if you add that in with the public colleges and universities, it gets up there substantially. And looking through the projects, the lion's share of this, in some cases, all of these projects, are going to pay professors from the university. The money that goes to the professors, does that supplement their wages that they would be getting through the year? So for instance, if, I'll just pick a number, and I'll make it easy, if they make $120,000 a year, that would be $30,000 per quarter, if I'm right. Anyway, I know they make more than that, but just as a guidepost, does the university use this money to backfill the wages of the professors through the summer months?
Madam
Sir.
Chair,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, Senator Green, I do not want to provide you incorrect information. I do not believe that is the case, but I would like to follow up with you afterwards with someone who's better versed in the finances of it, just so we can get you the right information.
Senator Green.
Madam Chair, well, that's fine, and I'll take that, but I've asked that question for a number of years now, and I think you should have the answer by now. But I'll go into the bill a little bit. I'm only going to hit a couple of your projects that kind of stuck out to me. On page 27, line 23 of the bill, I'm not going to go into the bill because it takes too long to fish through it, but if you have it, there's $673,000 basically for picking up roadkill and picking up dead animals. Can you tell me what kind of, what you're doing with those animals and what the benefit is?
Madam Chair, Senator Green, as a standard practice, the university as an institution does not get involved in the applications made to the LCCMR, so I could not, I apologize, speak to the specifics of this particular project.
Thank you. And I will note for the record that the LCCMR has a extensive process whereby the LCCMR members are able to ask these questions, and I believe I've heard many of these questions that we are hearing in comments toward the university, about the university, toward professors, about their projects, about their asks, in the context of the LCCMR, which has representatives from the Senate caucus Republicans, from the Senate Democrat caucus, from the House, both caucuses, community members. It is a group that is very well represented. So here in this committee, we don't have the professor that is proposing to do that, and it does seem reasonable to me that a representative from the university wouldn't be able to speak directly to that particular project, but that there has been a lot of opportunity to. Senator Green.
The members of the LCCMR committee are diverse, but they're limited, and we're here presenting to the whole Senate today. On page 28, $298,000 for avian flu, and we've stuck a lot of money into avian flu, and I can see that I'm probably not going to get an answer on how much you've done with avian flu, but do you know if you've come to any conclusions on the amount of money that we put into looking at migratory birds? Because we know that it's coming from migratory birds. Do you have any information on that?
Sir.
Madam Chair, Senator Green, there are a number of researchers and faculty working on avian flu at the university, as you are aware. Happy to bring folks from one of our many colleges working on that to update you on that, but I do not have that information off the top of my head right now.
Thank you. And I will also note that the LCCMR meetings are public. So if people do have concerns about particular projects, or they want to hear questions asked of proposers, those are public meetings, and people can listen in on them and be in contact with the members of the LCCMR to ask questions that they have concerns about. Yes, Senator Green.
Chair, as true as that may be, not everybody knows what the projects are, so how do you ask questions when you don't know the projects is there?
It's all
The other
public.
question then is, And the reason, I'm just going to make a comment, the reason that when I saw that, it stuck out to me, because further on in this bill, there's money that goes to the Audubon Society and the DNR for $840,000 to enhance migratory birds coming through Minnesota, having a flyway for them, a pathway. So on one hand, the LCCMR is spending money to prevent avian flu, which I think is fantastic because it's devastating our turkey crops. And on the other hand, the LCCMR is paying to get more migratory birds to come through Minnesota. And it's frustrating. And I have more, but I'm going to let other people ask questions too. But this deals directly with the university. And the other questions, because I'm not probably going to get a lot of answers, I would appreciate you coming in and giving me some answers on this. The last thing I'd like to talk about is on page 28. And I'm hoping you know this because it's a huge amount. It's $2.2 million, and it's to the university for CWD study. We also have another pretty good chunk going to the DNR for CWD study. And yet I haven't seen anything, but most of this goes into a lab. And the funding from Minnesota taxpayers has given the university a brand new pre-on lab. And it works through something called MinPro. And when I'm looking through MinPro, it looks to be a private organization, but it's a private organization owned by the university. I don't know how that works. That's what I got off of digging into this. So first of all, I'll ask a two-part question, and then I'll wait and let other people ask and maybe get through Senator Drazkowski's amendment. How does it work for the university to have a private business that was set up and funded through the taxpayers? I'd like to know how that formula works. And I'd also like to know, what does the taxpayers get back in the form of whatever you make, if you're making money off of that or whatever. But you're talking way over $1 million that just in this one project that went to your professors on this. Do you have any information on that, on MinPro?
Sir.
Madam Chair, Senator Green, respectfully, Senator, not to continue not having information for you, but I'm not familiar with the interworkings of MinPro, but happy to come back with you with folks who are smarter than me, honestly, to provide you that information.
Well, Madam Chair, I'm just going to ask then if you can get to me soon before this bill gets to the floor.
Absolutely.
Anything further, Senator Green?
I'm good for now. We'll see what after we finish this amendment.
Chair Her.
Madam Chair, I'd like to respond to the amendment that's at hand right now. I reject that amendment, and if we can move quicker and vote on the amendment, and then I'd like to motion the bill to move
Very
forward.
good. Senator Johnson-Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be quick. I have taught at the University of Minnesota for the last 30 plus years. I am so offended by the language of this amendment, and I want to stand up for my extremely esteemed and professional and peer-reviewed colleagues. Respectfully, Senator Drazkowski, I picked up the bill, just turned to a couple pages. There's plenty of dirt moving in here. For example, on page 10, line 1023, every one of us should be so grateful to the Minnesota Geological Survey for keeping the water atlas. Anybody who wants to go to the Minnesota Geological Survey with me and see what that is, it is literally a warehouse of dirt. It is literally dirt, because what they do there is they manage and catalog every well that's drilled in Minnesota, every soil boring, and what they're looking for is contaminants, and they're looking for the way that water flows under our ground. What they're able to detect is how PFAS, which if you're on the bonding committee, you hear over and over, rural communities are finding PFAS in their wells. Where is it coming from? The answer will be found at the Minnesota Geological Survey. Then I went up just to line 1014, cheap portable sensor to detect PFAS in water. Another extremely valuable piece of research happening at the university. We should be so grateful. I can answer very much broadly how it works at the university, Senator Green, when projects are funded and result in a product that is marketable and yields a profit, those profits go back to the University of Minnesota. I'm sure that we don't have time for that right now, but I would really, I'm angry about this because I know how much money I know that the university returns millions of dollars to the taxpayers because of the research and the product development, and this is not the place to bring that up. As senators who ask those questions, it's up to us to find that out. So I would encourage the university at another time to hold some kind of, I don't know, just a workshop so we can learn this, because it is in fact true. And I am offended. I don't know of any colleagues at the university that are acting in a way that we could call this a slush fund. When a university professor gets a grant, it is peer-reviewed, it is highly regulated, it pays for hourly wages by their workers, it pays for costs, it pays for test strips, it pays for drilling equipment, it pays for mileage, it pays for expenses, it pays for computers. It is not, I would actually venture that it probably doesn't pay for salaries. Most university professors are on a salary that is, does not rely on additional grants. So I'm offended by this conversation. I strongly reject this amendment, and I encourage all of my colleagues to get up to speed on how university profits are distributed to the state in a very beneficial way. Thank you for letting me respond, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Johnson Stewart. Senator Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's a really good book that you could read, and it's got all the LCCMR projects in it, and it tells what goes for personnel, and it tells where the money's spent. And if you get a chance, you know, we're here appropriating a lot of money, $103 million, and apparently I'm the only one in here that looked through the book. And then as long as it was brought up, PFAS, tons of money we send in PFAS to study. Do you know, or can you get me information on any conclusions that the university has come up with concerning PFAS?
Sir.
Madam Chair, Senator Green, I do believe that the university has made some announcements recently about progress related to PFAS, but again, I would want to put the experts in front of you and not give you bad information. Yeah. So we will follow up and maybe quickly with you.
Senator Green.
Madam Chair, I need to have this amendment finished up when we're done discussing it. I got just like 3 questions for Ms. Nash, and then I'll be done after that.
Okay. Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess we are here to ask questions. That's why we're here. So that's what we need to do. So going back to when I used to work at Camp Ripley, I'd work with and train people who are trying to get master's degrees. And I would look at the studies that they were doing. And some of these studies have been done over and over again. So like last year, when one of the bills we passed, I don't remember if it was LCCMR legacy, but I went through and I looked at $31 million worth of funding that we were giving to projects. I could answer those questions. I've done this stuff, or I could look it up. So we're repeating things that we've done. So I just suggested not even taking the money away, but putting it somewhere else. So if we're going to be spending the money, at least spend it on new research or new projects. I guess I wasn't going to say anything, but that was a response to what the senator here said. So, you know, I do see some of these projects, and I do see like, well, if we already know the answer, where is that money going, right? If we don't need to answer this question, if we're not even going to take the money away, let's put it somewhere else. So, like, how do you manage foxes in the metro? Will you trap them or shoot them? I mean, it's not quite that simple, but it kind of is. You know, we already know these answers. It is that simple. There's stuff in here asking about wolves. I've been doing wolf research for a long time. Back in 2015, we had the answers. We're asking, let's put collars on wolves and see what we need to do. We need to manage them. We don't need more money to do it. We just need to do it. Since 1989, they should have been delisted. We met the federal guidelines. So there is money in here that we are wasting. And if we're going to spend the money, at least spend it on something that a project we're just not wasting the money on. So let's spend our money better. This isn't your money. This is taxpayer dollars. This isn't our money. This is taxpayer dollars. There were $9 billion in fraud that happened last year. This is taxpayer dollars, and this is, anyway, I'll be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Her.
Just one correction. In term of project, and there is, which project is important is really arbitrary, and also it's been determined and recommended by the LCCR committee. But one correction is that it's not taxpayer dollar, it's lottery proceed.
Thank you. I have a comment about the amendment, and then I will let you have the last word, Senator Drazkowski. I find this amendment appalling and so disappointing. And I understand that people might disagree with certain projects, but we have a whole process set out for the LCCMR, and it was just re-upped and voted for overwhelmingly to reinstate this process and these funds that we have by the state, by the people of the state. So if people have gripes with this study or that study or how it's chosen or whatever, then sure, voice those concerns, but we have a whole process. So to hold up this whole committee to offer an amendment that is an insult to higher education professionals and our university system that is anti-academic, it's really, really disappointing in so many ways, on so many levels. And so I am going to ask for a roll call on the A4 amendment. And because I want this memorialized, that this type of thing was being done in 2026, offered in the Senate Environment Committee, to label the appropriations made by the committee, allocating through an extensive process at the wishes of the people of the state of Minnesota, that a senator offered to call that bill that represented those people's desire this. I want it recorded. So I request a roll call, and I'm going to grant the roll call. With that, Senator Drazkowski, last word, because it's your amendment on the A4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm wondering if the gentleman from the university, could you commit to us to give us a breakdown of salaries that are coming from these 33 projects that represent $22 million, or whatever Ms. Nash said? Breakdown for us salaries, and then the category of the salaries and the percentages of the grants that are going to salaries. As Senator Green mentioned, this is really the only chance in years, or probably ever, that a body here in the legislature has had a chance to discuss with the university this very high proportion of money that they're getting and the accountability for it. So we're not seeing any of that, and we're starting to see it today, and we appreciate that. And Madam Chair and Senator Johnson Stewart and others, I understand your frustrations. You want to go through this very, very quickly. Some of us don't necessarily like just simply rubber stamping the LCCMR's recommendation list, which we seem to do year after year. We're reluctant to make any deviations from that. But I think it's valuable for us to have the university here before us. And I'm asking you as the legislative liaison, if you could gather in for us a summary, including all the 33 projects and what the amount of salary and the category of position of those salaries for us, and then maybe representing those salaries as a percentage or proportion of the projects. That would be helpful. Could you present that for us on a table?
Sir?
Madam Chair, Senator Drazkowski, we can definitely get back to you and Senator Green and any other committee members interested with financial information. Happy to follow up with you on offline as well about how best to present that. As not the finance person, I don't want to commit to, I don't know what I don't know, honestly, in terms of what can be broken out, but you have our commitment to follow up with you all on financial information there as best we can. So,
Madam Chair, if
Sounds like maybe there's an interest in an informational hearing or some type of presentation. I wonder if we could take that offline so that we can vote on the amendment.
Madam Chair, I'm not hearing a lot of commitment from the university. It's not a very big ask. And maybe Ms. Nash has, maybe she's got that information ready for us. I don't know.
Ms. Nash.
Madam Chair and members, I just want to say I don't have that information handy, but that information is included in all of the draft work plans, and we post those on the website for legislators' review. So that information is already included in each of the work plans, the breakdown of how the money would be used, the salaries, the amounts, the FTEs, the over, so that information is available, and we can help get that to you.
Okay, so I'm hearing a commitment, so you two could get together and look at that information and just give us a simple table. We're very busy people. We have committee meetings throughout the day. Everyone here is, and you are too. But if it was in tabular form, we'd actually be able to consume it much more readily than going through each of those projects and trying to discern it. With that, thank you both for that commitment to bring that information to us. Madam Chair, I withdraw the amendment, the A4 amendment. Thank you.
Okay, the A4 amendment is withdrawn. Closing comment, Senator Green.
Thank you. I just have 3 questions, and I'll ask them all. And then if you can answer them now, that's fine. I'd just like it on the record for Ms. Nash. Okay, how much money is in the trust fund right now? Because we see the amount that we're spending, but how much is in the trust fund? How many different sources of funding does the trust fund have? And how much does it grow a year?
Thank you, Senator Green. Ms. Nash.
Yep. Madam Chair and members, so we draw down 5.5%, for LCCMR, 5.5% of the value of the fund every year. However, we peg that on a value of the fund on a given day. So for the current round of funding, we peg that value on June 30th of 2024. At that point, the value of the fund was $1.88 billion. Since then, we are not tracking, but it has surpassed $2 billion. So that is the answer to that question. How many different sources of funds in the trust fund? Okay, so.
Pardon me, sorry, Madam Chair, I was getting some really good advice and some numbers. It's 2.2.
2.2.
Go ahead.
Okay, so it follows the stock market, so it changes from day to day. So, I'm looking at it as it's surpassed 2 million. How many different sources of funds in the trust fund? So it is managed 70% stocks, 28% bonds, and the remainder in money market funds. So that's how it is broken up. And like I said, it also receives those deposits from the lottery. So lottery, and then it's invested, and so it receives that investment income and then some interest. Third question was, what is the increase? So this past year, I believe the return was about 11%. The 20-year rate of return is about 8.5, 8.3, 8.5, somewhere in there, and maybe Mr. Mueller can correct me if I'm, he did, okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Senator Hur.
Madam Chair, I move that we pass Senate File 3857 as amended, and we refer to the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Members, on that motion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. The motion passes.
Okay, yep. Thank you. Thank you. As chair, this is my fourth year as chair of this committee, and sometimes there's a moment where I learn things the hard way, and appreciate the discussion. Again, that we keep the LCCR on track. Next on our agenda is the subject of lead, association with hunting and fishing tackles. Let me double check to see if I have forget. Oh, we have a list of testifiers, and just to let testifier know that we have we're giving you just 2 minutes per testimony, and we'll time you as well. So if there's redundancy, try not to bring it up. I'm going to listen carefully, and if I hear redundancy, I will try and cut short of your testimony. If we don't get to you by the end of this session, because by the end of this committee, because we have to have a hard stop at 5, you can also submit your testimony through us, via email to my Senate office. Okay, so I'm going to pass this to Senator McEwen to give a little introduction, and then I will call testifier one by one to the testimony table. Why don't I call Willis Madison and Craig Sturley to join Senator McEwen front now. So Senator McEwen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all of the people who have prepared testimony today. My hope today is that in having this informational hearing, we are able to, again, revisit the issue of lead in ammunition and tackle in Minnesota. Ultimately, we want to move to a place where we don't have lead in our ammunition or our tackle. Everybody knows that there's no safe level of lead for humans. We all know the amount of toxicity. We've heard all of the impact that it has on our populations of animals in Minnesota and the harm that it does. So we have a lot of concerns that it's still there. We want to work. I have a bill, Senate File 1595, that we really want to work with all of the stakeholders on to reach some agreement in order to phase out lead from ammunition and from tackle. And so we are inviting actively, and we have for a while, all of those stakeholders to be in contact with my office, to be in contact with one another, so that we can start setting some dates for a phase out and identify what needs to be in place for this to happen. This would be a win-win-win. So with that, I turn it over to our testifiers. Thank you.
All right, starting with Mr. Willis Madison. 2 minutes. Welcome. State your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Willis Matson, a master's degree ecologist, a Mayo Clinic biochemistry researcher, a high school biology science teacher, and MPCA regional director for 28 years, now volunteering with the Isaac Walton League. I'm a lifelong hunter and fisherman who has shot trap and practiced at shooting ranges. We know there's no safe level of lead. Lead is a debilitating and lethal neurotoxin for humans, mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, invertebrates, and more. Only the lowly earthworm has been found to have any immunity to lead toxicity, but this too is insidious. Earthworms bioaccumulate lead. This means that shooting ranges and intensely hunted areas constitute virtual killing fields for any organisms that feed on earthworms, including shrews, robins, and many more. The use of lead in ammunition and tackle constitutes intentional environmental release and results in intentional contamination of our lands and waters. Thus, shooting range owners are knowingly and willingly creating future Superfund cleanup sites at enormous public expense. Furthermore, allowing these recreational uses of lead violates the Minnesota Environmental Policy Act, MEPA, that prohibits any state action that allows pollution, impairment, or destruction, so long as there is a feasible and prudent alternative. While opponents frequently cite the higher cost of non-toxic alternatives, these cost differences are minimal and shrinking. Besides, MEPA dispenses with this argument by emphatically declaring economic considerations alone shall not justify such conduct. There are feasible and prudent non-toxic alternatives to lead. Therefore, this bill simply implements existing law. All that remains is for this committee and the legislature to set a reasonable effective date to help these popular hobbies be conducted safely and without harm to wildlife. Bullets and shot should not be allowed to kill twice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Madison. Craig Sturley.
Thank you, Chair Har and committee members. My name is Craig Sturley. I'm a retired DNR forester. I've hunted and fished my whole life. I'm the Conservation Issues Chair for the McCabe chapter of the Isaac Walton League. My concerns with lead in recreational clay target shooting has grown as student participation has grown each year. I hope the sport continues to grow, but these are athletes in the same way that hockey players, football players, baseball, softball, soccer, and basketball. In these other sports, we've long recognized that serious concussions play a role that had to be addressed, and we addressed that by instituting new rules and equipment provisions And I feel we must do the same for the cumulative impacts of lead exposure. What level of lead each 12 to 18-year-old experiences varies based on multiple factors, but every squeeze of the trigger contaminates face, hands, and clothing. Airborne lead from the shotgun primer and lead shot accumulates shot after shot during competition. Over the course of the shooting season, this small but ongoing exposure adds up. If you can smell gunpowder, you're breathing lead primer. While students may choose to use steel, others select lead. Ultimately, this results in something akin to secondhand cigarette smoking. In addition to the lead primer, there's a large amount of lead shot, as hundreds to thousands of rounds are shot during practice and clay target competition. Based on numbers provided by the league organizers, a conservative estimate of the amount of lead is about 1.3 million pounds seasonally. The World Health Organization and CDC say that there's no safe level of lead. These numbers should make us sit up and pay attention and react in a way that preserves the health of these young people. It is particularly true for those in high-risk groups such as young women, a fetus, or infants. There is also a recognized life cycle of lead, from mining to refining, product production, shipping and handling, field use, and recovery and recycling. The problems don't go away, don't begin and end with the squeeze of the trigger. It's
Mr.
time to
Turner,
end
your
the
2
use of
minutes-
lead
your
tackle.
2 minutes up, so if you could find time to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, I'm done.
Thank you. And I'd like to call Dana Dickinson and Steve Chows to the testimony table. I want to also alert Carol Henderson, who's online, to be ready, and also Niffy Cole will, after this, do come over to the table right now. So after Dickinson and Schultz be ready, we're going to go online to Zoom for the two remote testifiers. Welcome, Dana, and state your name for the record.
Chair Herr and members of the committee, thank you. My name is Dana Dixon. I am a certified industrial hygienist. I have had lead exposure from recreational shooting and from my work. I am a lifelong hunter. It is time to get the lead out of all shooting sports. I have accepted as part of consuming the game that I kill and process that I and my family and friends would occasionally consume a birdshot pellet or a piece of lead cord bullet. The health hazards due to lead exposure from hunting and consuming game animals were not discussed in firearms safety training. I was never taught that the primers in my ammunition contained lead. The cloud of smoke released when a gun is fired contains lead from the burned primer, and as a result, I and all other users of firearms are exposed to inhalable toxic lead dust. This lead exposure affects 500,000 Minnesota hunters, more than 12,000 Minnesota high school sports shooting team members, and countless Minnesota gun enthusiasts and their families. I learned about lead exposure from firearms when I developed a safety and health program for armed professionals. I was surprised to learn that the primer in cartridges contained lead. Elevated blood lead levels from shooting ranges are well documented. Lead is known to be a potent neurotoxin and reproductive hazard for both men and women. For school-aged children and youth, toxic lead effects can permanently damage learning abilities and future reproductive capacity. Hazardous levels of lead dust are not necessarily visible, and the lead accumulates on surfaces. Toxic effects of lead are permanent. Lead exposures are now preventable and unnecessary. Lead-free ammunition is commercially available. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony as well and sharing your personal experience. Next is Mr. Schultz, Stephen Schultz. State your name for the record, and let me see if Mr. Patrick Reddy can come to the testimony table at any time when you find space. Welcome.
Chair, members of the committee, my name is Stephen Schaust. I'm the chapter president of one of the Isaac Walton Leagues in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. I'm also a lifelong NRA member. Puts me in a unique position because I have hunted for almost 60 years for almost every animal in North America. I was North American President's Trophy winner in 1983 and Hunter of the Year. I'm a very skilled, experienced hunter. I've also realized that lead is simply a poison and a lethal, irreversible neurotoxin that is dangerous to us all. We're asking for a restriction on lead. Lead is already restricted from waterfowl ammo, gasoline, paint, plumbing, and many other items. We are not the first to ask for this restriction. California signed into law the elimination of lead hunting ammo back in October 2013, with a full ban on lead ammo for hunting as of July 1st, 2019. This was mostly to save the California condors, but is a prime example of the poisoning effects of lead. Many animals, predatory birds such as eagles, and most importantly, humans here in Minnesota are exposed to lead in meat that is ingested. Lead fragments are scattered throughout meat that people and animals consume. I am also an X-ray technologist and used to supervise and run the X-ray department at Hennepin County Medical Center. I had a program for 4 years that X-rayed meat as people brought in meat to see if there were any lead fragments inside it. And throughout those years, it averaged 15% of the meat that people brought in had lead fragments in it. Everybody that was eating any of that venison or small game was absorbing lead. Ammunition manufacturers are slowly switching and providing more choices in copper and other alloys. Minnesota's own federal ammunition plant, Remington, Hornady, Spear, and most companies realize that as people are educated on the poisonous effects of lead ammo, that more people will make that choice. I also worked at Cabela's for many years, managing the hunting department in Rogers, and saw that every year it increased. More and more people were asking for non-toxic ammo. Now is the time for us to make that happen for everybody and get rid of this toxin from our lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We're going to go to our remote testifier. While we are going that and the testimony tempo are clear, I want to call Reggie Diggin and Miss Julia Powder to stand by, be at the table of standby. But going to go to Carol Henderson from remote. And the next person on remote will be Nifi Cole too, since we have a remote up. Oh, Carol's not on? Okay. Since I talk about remote, how about Nifi Cole?
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we do.
My name is Nephi Cole. I'm the Director of Government Relations for the National Shooting Sports Foundation. I'm also a former professional biologist with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, the USDA's arm that works with soil and water, plant and animal health all across the U.S., and I'm a former Natural Resource Policy Advisor for the Wyoming Governor, Matthew H. Mead. I'd like to congratulate the state of Minnesota and your wildlife agency for the great work that they've done in leading groups like the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. So as you know, lead has been a concern for folks for many years, And that is why, over the last decade, agencies have worked to analyze and define exactly what level of concern we should have with relation to this. The data is in, and it is definitive. Lead in ammunition represents no significant human health risk with regards to eating animals that are shot with traditional ammunition. Also, when good hygiene is practiced, it presents no significant health risk to recreational shooters. That is why the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies unanimously accepted an approach that they call a best management practice approach to controlling secondary ingestion of lead that is unintentional by wildlife. It's because lead does not represent a significant threat to wildlife populations with very few exceptions, those being California condors, and of course, in Minnesota, loons. And that concern is not related to ammunition. We strongly encourage you to look at the AFWA documents that we've shared with you and to recognize that those recommendations from the animal health committees at the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies were unanimously adopted by our nation's top professionals. We appreciate this concern, but frankly, the data does not justify a ban on ammunition in Minnesota or anywhere else. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cole. I would like to call Ms. Henderson one more time on remote. If you're on, do turn on your camera and open your mic. One more call. Going once, twice. All right. If you're there, you can contact our staff and see if we can put you back on at the end. Now I'm going to call Mr. Reddy. State your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Dr. Patrick Reddig. I'm a veterinarian and former professor of avian medicine and surgery at the University of Minnesota, and is also the founder and former director of the Raptor Center. I am here representing the Raptor Center. For 40 years as a clinician at that institution, I witnessed firsthand the annual stream of lead-poisoned bald eagles admitted to the center. It had a very distinct pattern that was a large, consistent spike in cases occurring in lockstep with the opening of the firearm deer season in November. There is a plethora of scientifically based evidence demonstrating that spent ammunition fragments in gut piles and unretrieved carcasses of game animals is the root cause of this problem. And you see an article that was in your briefing packet that gives more detail on that. Briefly, ingested lead bullet fragments are solubilized in the very acidic stomach and the released lead is absorbed. A piece of lead no larger than a grain of rice is sufficient to poison and kill a bald eagle, and they die a very painful death unless we intervene with euthanasia. Ballistic studies by the Minnesota DNR demonstrated that fragments from lead bullets disperse widely into the carcass of an animal, including the offal, the part of the animal that's left in the field when it is dressed out. The annual deer take in Minnesota is about 150 to 200,000 animals per year. That's roughly the number of gut piles that are left out there each year. Trail cam studies have shown that eagles quickly locate gut piles and feed on them with relish and vigorously. The result is a lot of eagles are exposed to lead in a very short time, and there's more data on that in the written testimony that I provided. Nowadays, every eagle admitted to the Raptor Center is tested for lead regardless of the cause of admission. 65% of the eagles have detectable lead residues in their blood, and this has been shown to be a number that's present nationwide for other studies that have been done. 12 to 15% of all admissions have clinical lead poisoning, and 62% of the poisoned birds die or are euthanized. Treatment is seldom completely successful. For years, we've advocated for the elimination of lead ammunition for big game hunting, either through legislation or voluntary compliance. The former has never been accomplished, and the latter has yet to prove effective. This problem has persisted for decades. I've been coming to the legislature for the last 25 years talking about this, and it's resulted in the unnecessary death and debilitation of thousands of eagles. While many factors impacting eagles and other wildlife are beyond our control, this is a solvable problem. For humane as well as conservation reasons, it's high time to take a meaningful action that will solve it. And now to put a finer point on clinical and ethical aspects, as well as suggesting some opportunities for solutions, I return the podium over to my colleague, Dr. Julie Ponder.
All right, perfect timing. Go ahead, state your name for the record.
Chair and committee, thank you. I am Dr. Julia Ponder. I am a wildlife and conservation veterinarian, retired from the University of Minnesota College of Vet Medicine, and a former director of the Raptor Center. I'd like to make 3 points today relative specifically to lead ammo and eagles. The first one will be really quick because it's been said. Lead is toxic. It causes painful suffering and death. Everything that was said about its impacts on humans translates to eagles. Second, in addition to the horrible death that it causes in individual eagles, there are population risks. Greater than 75% of lead toxicity mortalities are in adult breeding age eagles. These are birds that have survived 5 to 7 years and can be expected to reproduce for 25 to 30 years, which represents a tremendous loss of productivity. In species such as eagles, losing only 5 to 15% of adult breeders annually can push a population into decline. In addition, there are cumulative risks. The immune suppression caused by lead can threaten individuals and populations by making them more vulnerable to diseases such as West Nile virus and avian influenza, both of which are currently impacting our Minnesota eagles and wildlife. Beyond that, all of these, West Nile virus, avian influenza, lead, contribute to cumulative mortalities in eagle population, and they are all the result of human introductions. While we cannot do much about West Nile virus or avian influenza, lead is controllable. Finally, third, we need action. Banning lead ammunition will protect eagles and other wildlife and enhance their ability to deal with new threats posed by emerging diseases. And we need legislative leadership in Minnesota. Hunter's Choice, a grassroots effort encouraging voluntary use of non-lead hunting ammunition, has been funded in the past by LCCMR. It's a good program, too small in scope, one person at a time. It needs to be scaled up. It needs a big push. There would also be value and incentives for hunters to use non-lead ammunition and also marketing support for manufacturers. Finally, tracking of lead toxicity in eagles following any intervention program would be really critical. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony and your tag team as well. And match perfect timing. Last person, Mr. Andrew Tree. If one of you can make a little space for Mr. Andrew Tree to come over.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Andrew Try, and I'm here on behalf of the USA Clay Target League, and I'm here representing tens of thousands of Minnesota high school students and college students that have participated on their clay target team since 2001. The Minnesota State High School Clay Target League is one of Minnesota's most popular high school sports. It is a top 10 participation sport in the Minnesota State High School League and is larger than boys and girls high school hockey combined. More than 25 Minnesota colleges participate in clay target shooting sports through the programs managed by the USA Clay Target League, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Eagan, Minnesota. Over 75,000 Minnesota students have participated in the league's program since 2001. Over 12,000 Minnesota families, 400 schools, and hundreds of clay target shooting ranges will be participating in the league this spring. The league is nothing short of an amazing hometown success story, which has put at tremendous risk due to misguided legislation that causes more problems than it is meant to solve. I have a few points here. You guys have had a handout that I have hopefully submitted in time that you guys have it, so I'll just cover the main points. Number one, clay target shooting does not poison shooters. There has been no scientific evidence regarding lead poisoning for clay target participants. False and unsubstantiated lead poisoning claims have been made without any medical expertise, research, testing, or data to support that claim. Two, the high cost and low availability of non-toxic ammunition will cause an expensive barrier to participation for Minnesota youth. Yesterday, I went online to look at the costs of non-toxic ammunition. It is easily 60 to 100% more expensive than lead-based ammunition, which means that it would cause a significant increase in the cost for participation for tens of thousands of Minnesota families. Less clay target shooting participants will shut down shooting ranges. As a result of our tremendous success as a high school program, countless ranges have reopened Countless ranges are being successful, and all of that will be all for naught if half of the audience at least could potentially leave because of the cost of participation. And finally, a reduction in clay target shooting participants will decrease Minnesota DNR funding. Every box of ammo, every shotgun purchased has an excise tax of 11% that goes through the Pittman-Roberts Fund. In 2026, I believe Minnesota received about $22 million from that fund. And if clay target shooting sports are hurt in this manner that causes such a significant decline, well, then certainly the ability for the Minnesota legislature to pay for programs, of conservation programs, whether it's from boardwalks to raptor testing or research or any of that, is put at risk because of that decrease in funding. So if this law passes, Minnesota families and businesses will experience the negative impacts of higher ammunition costs, lower ammunition availability, less clay target shooting sports participants, less shotguns and ammunition sold, shooting range closures, and less federal funding for Minnesota wildlife and conservation efforts. This isn't a good thing to happen for our kids and for the state of Minnesota.
Thank you, Mr. Tri. Any question from members, either to Senator McEwen or those who has testified? And
Mr. Chair.
Senator McEwen.
Mr. Chair, I did have a copy of the short testimony from Carol Henderson, who had tried to be online, but I think was having trouble connecting. Would it be okay with the chair if I read it into the record quickly?
That would be just fine.
Very good,
Right,
thank
Senator.
you. And so this is the testimony from Carol Henderson. And I believe she has an affiliation with the Isaac Walton League and the Get the Let Out Committee. Mr. Chair, my name is Carol Henderson. I hold a BS degree in zoology, Iowa State University, a Master of Forest Resources Ecology, University of Georgia, 1968, was Minnesota DNR Assistant Wildlife Manager at Lac Qui Parle Wildlife Refuge from 1968 to 1970, and a Minnesota DNR Non-Game Wildlife Program Supervisor from 1970 to 2018. I wish to submit the following testimony regarding the proposed legislation that would eliminate the use of lead ammunition in Minnesota. The curse of lead poisoning in wildlife followed me throughout my DNR wildlife conservation career. From 1974 to 2018, excuse me, and into my retirement. I picked up a dying bald eagle on November 14th, 1974 on the Lac Qui Parle Wildlife Refuge, where I was working as assistant manager of the refuge. The dying eagle I found in 1974 was the first eagle I am aware of from Minnesota that died from lead poisoning. November 14th, 2024 marked the dubious 50th anniversary since that first eagle was found dying in Minnesota from lead poisoning. I simply believe that deer hunters should exhibit a shared concern for all wildlife and preserve the quality of our outdoor environments, both public and private, while we enjoy our hunting traditions. Respectfully submitted, Carol Henderson.
Thank you. Any questions to the testifier or to Senator McEwen or comments? Senator Ann Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a quick question for our last testifier, Mr. Tree. And while he's coming up, I want to say hello to Dr. Julie Ponder. It's good to see you again. Mr. Tree, my question is, how many rounds does a typical, like, if I'm a high school clay, if I'm shooting in practice, how many rounds, how many shots, how many bullets do I shoot off in a practice session?
Senator, it's Try, my last name. And a round is 25 targets, 25 shots. And so the average student will probably practice maybe once or twice, a couple times a week. And then they will shoot 50 targets, 2 rounds of 25 for their score for our program.
Sarah Ann Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr.
Try.
Well, I'm just trying to get a handle on the cost. So when I'm on the site for ammunition demo and I see that 22 ammunition costs 33 cents a round, is that 30?
Well, first off, they don't shoot 22 ammunition, they shoot 12 gauge ammunition.
Okay, but so how many I'm just trying to get, like, when we talk about traffic delays, we might say your delay was 2 times what it usually is. Well, that's a big difference. If it's, your commute is usually 5 minutes, that means you have a 5-minute delay. If your commute is an hour, you have an hour delay. So it's significant. So I'm just trying to figure out what the incremental cost is. So like, how many bullets does a child in trap class or trap competition? So what do you mean when you say they shoot a round? Does they shoot 50 times? Is that what you're trying to say?
So, yeah, so.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman Herr. Thank you. They will shoot 2 boxes of ammunition. Each box of ammunition contains 25 shotgun shells. There are no bullets in shotgun shells. There are small lead pellets that are in that shotgun.
Got it.
If I could further continue, the average cost of a box of ammunition for these students that participate in our program is roughly $8 to $9. And for non-toxic ammunition, if you can find it, the average cost is anywhere from $15 to $20 a box.
Senator Johnson Stewart.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question or comments? Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a lot to say, but I won't say all of it. I think everybody knows where Camp Ripley is, right? It's a military base in central Minnesota. Lots of lead downrange. Camp Ripley gets awards every year for being very environmentally friendly. There's invertebrates in Camp Ripley you can't find anywhere else in the state of Minnesota. Invertebrates, insects, butterflies. These are going to be the things that are going to be first impacted by lead poisoning because of their body. So if they have this great environmental, it's a great environmental place for lots of biodiversity that you can't find anywhere else. And there's lots of lead out there. What's lead really doing? I'm not saying lead's good, but you know where lead comes from? It's PB, it's an element, so it comes from the ground. So, yeah, I'm not saying we should eat arsenic. So, anyway, the eagle population, I've done this like 3 years in a row now. The eagle population in Minnesota is just exceedingly, it's doing great. I'm not saying I want eagles to die, but like you stated, a lot of this funding comes from the sportsmen. So would the Eagles even be doing as well if we weren't taking money from the lead ammunition that we've been selling for the last 40 years? Maybe the eagle population wouldn't be doing so great if we didn't take some of that money and put it back into the resource. So statistically, the eagle population is doing just fine. Yes, it's sad to see that an eagle died because it ingested some lead. But if you take a poor person that can't afford to buy a box of copper or whatever bullets there are, now you're coming down to myself. I was very poor growing up. I couldn't go and buy copper. I might only be able to buy 1 box of ammo. And then I also have to buy boxes of ammo so I can practice, so I can shoot animals to make sure when I shoot an animal, I kill it and I don't just wound it. So now we're getting into this realm of lead is doing this. The eagle statistics are from the DNR. Loons are increasing in the state of Minnesota. That came out from the DNR's website last year. I talked about this last year with my eagle loon study. That didn't happen. We're like, lead is scary. It's not. Nobody wants to kill animals, but I feel like this is more of a get rid of firearms or ammo than actually concerned about the environment, because our wildlife populations are doing pretty darn good. And this just doesn't make sense to me. Our wildlife is doing great. This bill just needs to go away. Thank you for your testimony. Thank everybody for your testimony, but I'm hearing politics and I'm not hearing science. So thank you.
We also all have our agency here as well, and if there's something that we want awry and not correct, not the fact, I'm sure you feel free to raise your hand and come overcorrect us. Sarah McEwen, or any members?
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for the discussion about this. I think one of the things that we want to work on through this bill is we do recognize the harm that lead brings, and I do think that we also recognize how great our trap shooting sports are in Minnesota, and we want them to flourish, and we want kids to be able to do this sport and to be able to afford to do it. So all of these concerns that have been brought up, I think, are very legitimate, and we, in our goal with wanting to work on this legislation, is to figure out what is it that needs to happen to really encourage the industry to phase out lead in the ammunition. If we can get the industry to move in that direction and actually give them that push that they need, the costs should go down, and it should be affordable for all Minnesotans, including our young people. And then, you know I wouldn't want my kids to be exposed to that level of lead if they decided they wanted to be involved in trap shooting, and I wouldn't want to be exposed to it either. So I think that this really is about making sure that industry is responsible to the people, and that we have these meaningful, right now, I think that we heard some of the testimony that was offered in the sense of that urging people to do this and educating people to do this has been great, and we could use more funding for that, but it hasn't actually delivered what we need, which is the elimination of lead from our ammunition and our tackle. Ultimately, we really need to take action to give industry that extra push that it needs to make sure that Minnesotans are safe, that our environment is not harmed by this lead, and that we can continue on with the sports and the hunting and the fishing that we love in the state. So I'm really grateful to all of the people that are working on this issue and trying to find that common ground and trying to find a way to be able to move this forward. And I invite people to contact my office with any ideas and proposals, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to move forward. I really thank you, Mr. Chair, and the committee for hearing all of the speakers today who have visited my office and have voiced these concerns for some time. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah McEwen. Also, I do see that that's a good conclusion as well. And I'll want to take this time to thank all the testifiers, for giving us information to be continued on this discussion. This is a good informational hearing. We'll see where we go from here, whether it could be legislation or other, additional hearings, and we will continue to have more hearing on other environmental issue in this committee, being that this is an environment committee. So any question or any comment, not on this subject now, but about the committee? If not, then the next Tuesday, March 10th, 3 o'clock is our next meeting. Stay tuned check on your email on any development or any update. So thank you, members, and thank you, testifier and agency as well. The meeting is adjourned.